Madam Vice Chair is on her way in. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Kai. We're still here on February 17th, and we have before us voting list number 17. We have two bills on the list and may have in our flexibility mode something else before it's all said and done, but we're going to start with Patrick.
I'll start with the flexibility bill, I guess. Senate Bill 19 is a bill that was heard a while ago. It's the Equity and Transportation Sector Guidelines and Analyses Bill. Similar legislation was passed by the General Assembly last year and then vetoed. What the bill does is it requires the Maryland Department of Transportation before announcing or proposing any major service change under certain federal standards to conduct a transit equity analysis, perform a cost-benefit analysis, consult with members and leaders of affected communities, and take certain actions based on the results of those activities. MDOT also has to perform these analyses and consult with affected community members and leaders before announcing any reduction or cancellation of a capital expansion project in the CTP that exceeds certain thresholds. The bill expands existing transportation plans, reports, and committees to include transportation equity issues. The House has passed out a bill with some amendments, and this reprint in front of you reflects amendments that they adopted. It's my understanding that the Department of Transportation is fine with the bill with the amendments that they adopted. I'll walk through them on page 2. This advisory committee that advises MDOT on transportation goals, the attainment of goals and benchmarks. If you go to page 3 of the bill, some of the indicators that this advisory committee must recommend for evaluating attainment of goals. There's some slight modification there, but they're to come up with some indicators for racial disability, ethnic and low-income disparities based on available sources or information. The department also has to evaluate the indicators to identify any racial disability, ethnic or low-income disabilities. So that's the first set of amendments here. And then on page 4 of the reprint, the membership of the advisory committee has a change, and that includes a representative of the transportation construction industry. And then proceeding to page 5 of the reprint, just another slight change of what this advisory committee advising the Department of Transportation, what they're to consider for planning purposes and attainment of goals. They're to consider the impact of transportation investment on persons with disabilities, including service accessibility. There's some language here that strikes this qualifier, but they're to do that to the extent data is available. Page 6 of the bill, this is where provisions relating to the equity analysis begins, and the definition of disparate impact when evaluated is modified to include the impact on members of a group identified by disability. And if you proceed to page 8 of the reprint, this is the equity analysis for major service changes. There's an amendment here that would require the department to conduct a transit equity analysis in accordance with the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act Amendments Act and the Federal Rehabilitation Act of 1973 as amended to determine whether the change will create a disparate impact on persons with disabilities. I think in an aim to align the analysis with certain federal requirements. This is, if you go to page, let's see, 11 of the reprint, here's the part of the bill that deals with the equity analysis for reduction or cancellation of a capital expansion project in the CTP that exceeds certain thresholds. MTA must conduct a transit equity analysis in accordance with these federal statutes to determine whether the change will create a disparate impact on persons with disabilities. So those are the amendments that the House has adopted on the bill.
Are there questions to the proposed amendments to Senate Bill 19? Vice Chair?
This, before announcing any reduction or cancellation on page 11, that bottom piece, would that have affected the red line when it was canceled? Would the
Certainly
governor have been able
the
to do
cancellation
that?
of, I think that actually has more to, let me see. That's with the cancellation of a, yes, on page 11, before announcing any reduction or cancellation of a capital expansion project, that, yes, that would have captured the cancellation of the red line.
Yeah, so too bad we didn't have it then. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the proposed amendments to Senate Bill 19?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for a favorable as amended on Senate Bill 19. As amended before you on the reprint. Are there any questions? All those in favor of the motion favorable with amendments on Senate Bill 19, raise your hand. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 favorable. Okay, those opposed, please raise your hand. That's 1. If that bill passes with a majority of votes.
It's Senate Bill 19, Senate Bill 19.
Next bill.
So Senate Bill 162, which is back before you, relating to the Maryland Aviation Commission. The bill relating to the Maryland Aviation Commission. A reprint, circulated a reprint that includes some modifications to the composition of the commission that Senator Lamb is proposing. Those are shown on page 3 of the reprint. And what's proposed is to alter the membership so that it expands to 13 voting members. But it would have 12 appointed by the governor with the advice and consent of the Senate. And of this 12, 2 would be recommended by the Anne Arundel County Senate delegation, and 2 would be recommended by the Howard County Senate delegation. It also would strike this requirement that the list that 4 of the governor's appointees would come from this list that's supplied by the DC Metroplex BWI Community Roundtable or its successor.
Hey, Senator Kramer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if I understand correctly, the goal here is to have some influence over the commission with regard to concerns with local communities. What I don't fully understand, does this commission make decisions about lots of other things at the airport, their budgets, things that involve the airlines? Can somebody share that with me? And exactly what would these individuals that, I get it, are there to be part of the voice to express the concerns from the community, but what else are they going to be voting on that relates to the airport and the economic development side of the airport, the customers coming from all over the world to the airport? Can somebody give me a handle on that? I'm hearing crickets. Cricket. Cricket.
Does the sponsor want to?
Cricket.
You know, I think and I'm trying to look for the part of the statute that deals with the charge of the commission, but my understanding is that it's more advisory than actually than it actually has authority over the business of BWI. You know, I think, and it's not any of our intention to hamstring the business of BWI. We want to see it thrive and succeed. This is really just, it's like a board to a business, right? Where the board provides some general guidance and oversight. The day-to-day operations are run by the CEO. It's similar, I think, in this respect, where the commission provides some top-level oversight, and the operations are run by the MAA director, who I think is also a member of this commission as well. And so it's really intended to be more advisory than authoritative.
So let me ask you this.
Let me just
Okay.
interject real quick. This council found some language in the bill. So you want to,
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the duties of the commission are laid out in on page 2 of the reprint. And it's also, there's a pretty good summary in the fiscal note on page 2 of that. The commission is to establish policies directed towards the Maryland Aviation Administration's ability to, under current law, improve and promote the role of the BWI airport as an airport of service to the Washington, Baltimore metropolitan area. It also approves regulations for the operation of the state-owned airports prior to their adoption by the executive directors. So that would also include the Martin State Airport in addition to BWI. And it would direct MAA in developing and implementing airport management policy for all state-owned airports.
Wow.
Its duty is to approve major capital projects at any state-owned airport before the submission of those projects to the Governor and General Assembly for approval. It exercises those powers granted to the commission under statute or by any other provision of law. And then in carrying out its responsibilities, it's to consider information and advice from certain groups that are listed in the bill. So that's what the statute lays out as its charge.
All right. So as I am looking at, I'm following exactly where you were just reading. It does, with all due respect, sounds like a little more than advisory. It says, approve regulations for the operation of the state-owned airports, actually plural, prior to their adoption by the executive director, direct the administration in developing and implementing airport management policy for all state-owned airports, approve major capital projects. So I guess for me, I can appreciate and value the desire to have some input from the local community but this sounds like whoever that is that's chosen from Anne Arundel and whoever it is chosen from Howard is going to have a tremendous amount of authority over something they may know nothing about, other the fact that they are concerned, understandably. I'm not looking to discount that aspect of folks living in the region, but they are going to be having a significant impact on things that go way beyond that particular issue. Is it possible that, and I see we've now winnowed it down to 2 from Howard, 2 from Hannah Arundel. If the goal is to communicate community concerns, could that not be accomplished with a single individual who comes from each of those communities, who will be there to participate, express their concerns? But I just think, really looking at it now, there's some legitimate worries about having just folks from the neighborhood involved in making very important decisions about airport operations, period.
Happy to respond to that.
No,
Sure.
please do.
And then we'll go to Senator Mouse.
Sure.
but Sure.
So a few things to take into consideration. I don't think we are intending just to draw folks, off the street or from our communities to serve on this commission. One, that's why it is, one, the airport has a broad swath of area that it affects, right? And so I think part of the rationale that we were looking to broaden this to include counties is because there are going to be folks from all across the area. And initially this was actually set up as specific districts. We recognize that this is probably broader than specific districts, and that's why we actually broadened it to counties. Two, when it comes to these folks, they will be, it's not too dissimilar of a process to what currently takes place now, where the governor simply appoints them and they go through advice and consent of the Senate. So in this instance, we are providing recommendations to the governor. The governor can still reject those individuals if they don't think they're qualified. They can reject those individuals that are submitted by the Senate delegation, and we would simply have to come back and submit new folks for their consideration. So the process is the same. It's parallel because the governor still appoints the individuals to the commission. It just is, there's a pre-test kind of environment where we provide some names to them. And if they choose not to go with those names, we have to come back and reconfer and provide some new names going forward. If they think that this person is
No, I
totally
understand.
unqualified to serve on the commission, they don't have to appoint that person. And we as a body still have a final check as the Senate to advise and consent for these individuals. And they are far below even the majority threshold for this commission, right? So there's 13 members. There'll be 4 of these members coming forward. They're not even close to a majority to be able to, unduly influence the commission in any way. And
Well, I understand and
just let me-
appreciate, go ahead.
Let me finish 2 points real quick. The administration is supportive of this as long as these are additive and not taking the place of 9 of those members that they currently are able to appoint. So this is additive to that. And the end of the bill also has provisions for them to go through some proper orientation and training so that they're better familiar with their charge and mission, the neighborhoods that they're supposed to serve, some of the regulations that currently fall under the commission duties as well.
All right, let me ask you this. Am I mistaken, or was the catalyst to this the concerns that have been coming out of the communities around the airport? Is that the catalyst as to why we have Anne Arundel and Howard represented, for instance, not Montgomery, not Garrett, not Carroll counties, but Howard and Anne Arundel specifically? Am I mistaken in that? That is the catalyst to this bill.
Most of the concerns, yes, we've heard from
Okay.
Anne Arundel and from Howard.
Okay, so again, going back to my point, and I appreciate your saying that somehow they're going to get training in broader concerns related to the airport. I guess what has caught my attention is that, again, not to downplay the concerns that were the catalyst to the legislation, but why not have a representative from Anne Arundel and a representative from Howard who are there with the understanding that their primary significance as members of this board are to focus on and address the concerns of the local communities there. And as you said, the goal is not to have a disproportionate influence of numbers. And you're indicating that, well, 4 would not, but having 4 individuals making these overarching decisions, these are big decisions about the operations of a state airport. I'm just saying, do we actually need even 4 people? What if we had one person from each jurisdiction to participate. I just think this is a lot of responsibility for folks from communities that are there to express their concerns, but know nothing about what it is they're going to be doing. I mean, just because I might have concerns about the medical profession doesn't mean that I should be put on a board that has oversight of what you're doing so that I'm in a position to express those concerns along with a bunch of other people who may have similar concerns. I don't understand what it is Dr. Lamb does, and it would not be appropriate for me to be there. The question is, do we really need 4 people to be making significant decisions about evidently everything from the economic development, the budget, the function of an airport? That's my point. So I can, like I said, I understand the goal to have a voice at the table, but how large does that voice need to be as far as all of the other factors? Thank you. That's
Thank
it.
you. Let me go to Senator Vital.
I thought, okay, Senator,
Yeah, I,
thank you. I just, it's amazing when you read the code, what happens. One of the 9 appointments right now should be a member of the General Assembly. I can tell you in my 16 years, 17 years, we've never had an appointment on this board. So that's a problem. Senator, I appreciate your concerns. We have people, I mean, I serve as the chair of executive noms. We have people get appointed to boards every day that don't necessarily have a health background if they're the HCC or, other backgrounds. Because a lot of the boards say consumer rights, but I can tell you a number of the people that have just been appointed have no aviation background. I know many of them, they have investment background and other backgrounds, but they have no aviation background. We've had issues. They're now taking about 50 acres of trees down with no notification. When they built the 200,000 square feet of Amazon, the community got no notification with all the traffic and the additional planes at night. I think one thing about having some representatives is we can at least get word back about what the decisions are that are being made. I mean, I love the airport. I represent the airport, obviously, and I know it's an economic driver for the state, but we can't do it at the risk of the citizens. And I get emails every single day about the noise, every single day. Not a day goes by. And so, this doesn't particularly address the noise, but I'm just trying to explain the impact of the airport in the district. But yeah, I'm going to make sure we get a member of the General Assembly.
can I just have the council do one clarification, Senator? Because I think we may be misreading that section. Can you go back over that?
So I just wanted to, so the reason that no member of the General Assembly is served on the commission is because statute under subsection D prohibits the governor from appointing a member of the General Assembly to it. So that's the reason that's not permitted.
So it says the governor may not appoint to the commission an officer or employee of the state, a representative of any entity whose principal activities are related to the operation of state-owned airports, a person employed, a member of the General Assembly. So the governor may not appoint a member of the General Assembly. So that's why. Correct. Yeah. I didn't see it either.
Yeah, I was just running down the list. But it is a concern what's happening and it's expanding. There's going to be a new runway. We know that's coming. There's a lot going on. So whatever your pleasure, but I will tell you that's a significant impact to the district.
Can I ask this? And then I'll go to the vice chair and then we'll come back to those who haven't spoken on the bill yet. It occurs to me that there is a big problem in the jurisdictions that are closest to the airport with noise. And I guess I want to understand the group that the roundtable that was in the bill as introduced and who from the aviation, Maryland Aviation, is participating in that, because it seems like if their noise is the issue, could we not put in statute that members of the Maryland Aviation Administration participate in that group versus the other way around? So then, since you're responding, can you tell me what what is it that's not happening at that level that we're hoping will happen at this level?
Sure. So the BWI roundtable exists. It's not in statute. It's something that has kind of come together. The MAA staffs the roundtable, and that's why they do participate in that. And I've attended a few of the roundtable meetings. I think the difference there is that the roundtable is very focused on trying to get FAA to update their runway kind of guidelines when it comes to next gen. That is their sole focus is really, they were formed because of the changes that occurred from the next gen flight path changes from about 2016 or 17 or so. The commission has a broader charge. And that's why also in here, there's a charge to, A, make sure they have proper training, B, to also consider the health impacts, that there's a balance to all of the decisions that go on at the airport, whether it's noise, but it's not just that, trees, environmental impacts, property impacts, et cetera, et cetera. And even the first charge of the commission here, which the commissioners, I think, do need to abide by, is to establish policies aimed at improving and promoting the role of BWI as an airport to the service of the Washington-Baltimore metropolitan area. That is the number one responsibility that they have as part of this mission. And it is just such a broad swath. I agree, it's not a day that goes by. And when I was out canvassing and going through different neighborhoods, I invariably heard from a lot of different constituents, and it continues even to this day, 5 or 6 years after NextGen has been implemented, to still occur in our neighborhoods. And we still hear of those complaints too. And so the intent here is to find folks that have a broad understanding, not just about noise, but about health, about their local communities, about the environmental impacts as well, that we as the delegation or the two delegations would recommend to the governor. And again, if they feel like they're not qualified, they don't have to appoint those individuals. They can ask for additional people that would then come before the Senate for confirmation.
Thank you. Madam Vice Chair.
Yeah. What on page 2, and it's number 2 and then number 4, the word approve, I would think they should advise, but don't have the power to approve. That's current. Well, can we put advise?
They have some implications, but
Okay. And my other question is, how many state airports do we have? So that would be Martin's
Right.
in Baltimore County. So I got something at the beginning of session asking for someone from Baltimore County to be on some board with the airport. And I couldn't figure out why that was, but I guess it ties in with this, but they're not, Baltimore County's not even advised in here. So therefore, this group would have something to say about what was going on in Baltimore County without any. Okay,
I think the reason we're approaching this now is really because of the next gen changes that occurred 5 or 6 years ago. And it's affected the communities, not just immediately close to the airport that are in Senator Beidel's district that were used to the noise, but it's now gone farther and farther out into Senator Giles' district, into my district, into Senator Hester's district in Western Howard County. Those were all due to changes that occurred because of NextGen. NextGen didn't change Martin State Airport. And so I think the governor in their appointment could still appoint people that are from the southeast Baltimore County area that's near Martin State Airport to also be that voice as well. But this is the reason we're asking for this change is because the flight paths themselves changed. And I don't think there's been quite the degree of change at Martin State Airport when it comes to all of those changes around the local communities themselves and how they were affected by whether it's noise or environmental impacts, et cetera, et cetera.
okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to council and then go back to Senator Beidel.
So I did want to just there's been some discussion about geographic representation. So just everyone understands, and on the reprint on page 3, existing law, and again, actually the way that this amendment is drafted, we would need to make a tweak here, but it says that in appointing the members of the commission, the governor shall take into consideration both the geographic and ethnic representation of the state, such that all segments of the population of the state, to the extent possible, are represented on the commission. That's the existing statutory provision.
Thank you, Patrick. Senator Beidle.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm the mission of the Metroplex, the Video Guide Community Roundtable. The purpose, the DC Metroplex Community Roundtable is an initiative of the Maryland Department of Transportation, MDOT, formed at the request of the Federal Aviation Administration. The roundtable shall be responsible for the following monitoring and implementation of air traffic procedures established by the MAA in the District of Columbia Metroplex. So that's all the roundtable's for.
Understood. Okay. No way I would have known that. Thank you. Senator Guile.
Madam Chair, whenever there is an appropriate time, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Senator Mounts.
So I really wasn't that focused, but after reading through the commission, this commission sets policy for every airport in the state. Is that? Oh, okay. So the airport in Salisbury and the airport in Easton are not affected by the commission at all. Okay.
Senator Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going back to what Senator Kramer raised. Like, I thought we were gonna have an easy work session, by the way. My laptop was closed. I was not even prepared. I started. looking
Remember,
up
I
stuff.
apologized before we took a break and said there was a bill that I didn't actually. yeah.
Okay, got you. All right, but Senator Kramer had mentioned like one from each county. Is that like not an option? Why 2 as opposed to 1? I'm curious.
So originally the bill was drafted as 4 by districts. And so prior to this version, it was actually 1 from 32, 12, 13, and whatever 30 is, which I think are probably the ones that have been most recently affected, although I think, Senator Guile brings up a good point that their district has also been hearing more and more, particularly around the Severn River area. And so that's why it originally was drafted as 4. With what Senator Guile had brought up, we felt like it was preferred then to just broaden it to the counties rather than doing it district based. Because 1, district numbers can change, right? District 12 didn't used to go into Anne Arundel, now it does. And 2, it helps give just a better distribution of input from the 2 counties most affected by the next gen noise changes. But again, these folks would be looking at broader policies. And that's why I think when the Senate delegations take a look at who they're going to put forward, we're going to be referring back to the charge of the commission and the commissioners. And if their charge is as enumerated here in the existing statute, we're going to come up with some folks that have a broad understanding of the local community, of the business needs, of MAA, of aviation, to be able to put forward to the governor. And if he still doesn't think they're qualified, he can choose not to appoint them and ask us to come back with new people.
Right, but he's still bounded by them having to come from a pool from the senators. And then, as Patrick articulated, in lines, what is the 19 through 22, 8 of those members have to be geographic, take into consideration geographic distribution, but we're already handicapping it by saying 50%, half of the 8 have to be from 2 of the 24 counties in the state.
No, it's only
Right.
4 of the 13.
4 of the 13,
Right,
right?
right.
Okay.
So it's a minority. It's not close to majority. And that's why the administration was comfortable with adding 4, but not
Mhm.
taking the place of any of the existing.
Oh,
members
I
that they
see what
can
you're saying.
already
Gotcha.
appoint.
No.
Right,
I
initially it
see.
was replacing, this puts in a posture that the administration is comfortable with.
Really? So no to one. You don't like one. Is that what you're saying?
I think it doesn't give the proper reflection of the broader area that's now been impacted by just BWI generally, right? I mean, the
Mhm.
airport is growing. When you look at the size of the airport over the last few decades,
Mhm.
it's grown significantly in flights coming in and out, in air traffic, in communities impacted, in business, which is great. But the intent here is to reflect kind of the broader diversity that we see in our community that is impacted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I just wanted to point out one technical change on line 19, page 3 of the bill. Right under the area that Senator Vital drew our attention to earlier, where it says in appointing thee, that 8 should be changed to 12. That's where you were getting tangled up. We hadn't made that correction, so thank you. Yes. Okay. You have discussed and have before you Senate Bill 162 as amended. Are there any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion. Was that a favorable? Okay, Senator Ellis moves favorable with amendments and a second by Senator Vital on Senate Bill 163 as amended. Senator Lamb.
Is it possible to hold it until Senator Klausmeyer coming back?
Sure, we can hold it.
Senator
Let's
Kate-
go to the next bill. Let's go to the next bill. Okay, we'll come back. Next bill.
Yeah,
Her
for the
purse
vote.
and glasses are there, so we'll come back. All right, David.
The next bill is Senate Bill 668. This bill establishes the Teacher Apprenticeship Startup Grant Program to provide opportunities to begin a career in education in the state for high school students, college students, and career changers. It also is intended to develop a cohort of individuals qualified to work as teachers in the state and encourage local boards of education to hire apprentices. The Maryland Department of Labor may award up to $500,000 to a sponsor for development and launch of a teacher apprenticeship program. The program sponsor must establish a multi-year registered apprenticeship program that develops a career path such that level one is tutor, level 2 is a paraeducator, and level 3 is a teacher. So the apprentice would go through all 3 levels before they could get to the point where they possibly could apply for certification as a teacher. The sponsor has amendments in a reprint in front of you. And you'll see, I'll quickly go over the bill. There's definitions in here. The sponsors define CTE committee because that's a big part of the rule regarding high school apprentices. And that has to be defined because this is in the labor and employment article. Page 3 of the reprint, you'll see the purposes of the grant program. And in the middle, this has to deal with who can be a sponsor. The sponsor has made changes here. Initially, it said shall consist of at least one union representative. Instead, he replaced that with shall consist of at least 3 local school systems and may consist of unions representing school employees, additional local school systems, and individual schools. You'll see the process or the path that a apprentice would have to go through to become a teacher. And on the next page, there's language here again, further dictating how the sponsors would have to develop their programs. There's an amendment that they would have to coordinate with existing grow your own programs, grant funded efforts, and CTE pathways and Educators Rising. I guess these are all education folks. In the middle of the page, there's an amendment about that well, the bill that can't affect anything regarding the requirements for teacher certification. And it also specifies that a level 1 or level 2 apprentice may not serve as a teacher of record. I don't know what that means. And an apprentice shall comply with the requirements of the local school district for background checks regardless of age or background. The next few lines in the bill concern high school apprentices who want to be teachers. And if you go to page 5, there's further requirements for those who actually receive a grant as a apprentice sponsor. They must meet the requirements of the section and have union participation. So this is another bill from the sponsor who has many apprenticeship bills, including the 2000, which if you keep doing these, will probably reduce the work of that commission.
All right, Senator Lamb.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. Senator Hayes.
It was just an automatic reflection. You got it. Hey, David, what is the status of the House version of this?
It's in rules. It's on, you'll see on the yellow sheet that it's in rules, so it hasn't, it probably came in late. And so it hasn't come out of rules yet. And I don't know when House Rules lets their bills out.
And we haven't gotten any indication on whether they plan on moving it or not.
I don't even know which committee it would go to. I assume it could possibly, since it's in the labor employment article, it could go to economic matters, but since it has to deal with teachers and the schools, it may go anywhere from appropriations. It could possibly go to Ways and Means. I don't know where it would go. If it
Yeah, and
came
it's
out
not
of
too
rules.
bad of a bill. The question is this a holdover from the big bill that we just passed or no? Was this ever in there or this just
I'm not sure
the
what the
new
big,
idea altogether, the
I
big
don't-
apprenticeship bill?
what's the big, I don't know which the big apprenticeship bill is.
What's that?
You're talking about in Kerwin, what we did for apprenticeship, or what we did in the apprenticeship bill, the comprehensive Malcolm Augustine.
Oh, that bill is, that bill establishes the commission to look at ways, in addition to
Right.
what you have here. I mean, the overarching purpose of that commission is gonna be to get at least 60,000 apprentices, people in apprenticeships in the state by a certain time frame. So it's gonna take a much broader approach than what this bill is. This bill is narrowly focused on teachers. I know you have another bill that's focused on another profession. So no, this is just a piece of the puzzle. I would probably view this as, in terms of the sponsors, as a piece of the puzzle, but that commission is going to look at every profession in the state and how to get more apprentices in there with a focus on folks in high school, because there's money in the there has been money in the Kerwin to
Yeah.
focus on apprenticeships in high school. So he has the plan here is to get as many high school kids in apprenticeships that can lead to good jobs once they get out of college, once they get out of high school.
Got you. Okay, cool.
Okay, are there additional questions, Senator Mounts? And then Reedy, yep. Oh, you want me to go to Senator Reedy first? Okay, Senator Reedy?
I actually really like this idea as a concept. I think we should be looking at ways to sort of, I don't know how to say, but sort of demystify or delayerize the process of becoming a teacher. Other professions obviously need good training though, so we don't want to take it for. I was looking at the testimony and the boards of education like it is, was there any other input from people that is not in the testimony? And is this something that we need funding for, or how? I just wasn't clear on, or I guess school systems could decide to do it themselves, right?
Yes, there's no, it says, it gives the amount that the department can award as a grant, but there's no funding requirement in here. So it would have to be something in the budget to allow the department to come up with at least $500,000 to give to an apprenticeship sponsor. It could be less, and it could, maybe you could have more than one, but I think it's the max per sponsor, but there's no funding requirement in the bill.
I gotta tell you, our school system, I know the caseworkers are overwhelmed, our support staff, we don't have enough support staff. So I mean, I would assume paraeducators could be plugged in a support role while they're learning, but I also know it's kind of late in session, so
I
I'm
believe there's-
ambivalent. I like the idea for sure, but Yeah.
I know there's money in Kerwin for apprenticeships. I believe the sponsor is wrote, or.
Could this tap into that, or you have no idea?
I don't know how that would, I don't know how that would find its way into the department so they could award these grants.
Okay.
David, I asked the sponsor either at the hearing or after the hearing if consideration had been given to, and I see it on page 4 in the middle of the page. I don't see a line after 13. One of the concerns I had, having had a family member who was a teacher in the school system, was the requirements for local school districts for background checks. And, you know, I know they had to take a lot of pre-classes and social, you know, the harassment, workplace harassment and all of that stuff. So I do see the amendment has taken
I'm
care of.
sure he
that
put that in there to address your concern about
Page 4.
the sensitive nature of some of the work teachers do.
Yeah, because we're putting high school students in a school with other students. So that was a concern that I had. Right?
Can I ask?
Hmm?
I thought that was like they would be tutoring, which we already have tutoring programs, or is it they're gonna stick high schoolers in the school?
There are 3, let me
There's
him
3,
explain the
it's a 3,
levels.
yeah, I mean, the way it's envisioned is, once you sign up to be an apprentice, your first step would be a tutor. And then level 2, as you matriculate through the apprenticeship, level 2 would be a educator, and then level 3 is a teacher, but you still would have to go, get certification to be a certificated teacher.
Right.
There's nothing in there that says that. And I don't know, there's obviously going to be education requirements that go along with that final step. So I would imagine, I don't know if there's going to be an attempt to, not have to go to a 4-year college.
So it's
to
not
get that.
clear, it's not,
It's not,
it's not clear when they would begin, yeah. All right,
Thank you, Senator Mounts.
I just was wondering, would this apply to there's an organization on the Eastern Shore called the Eastern Shore Educational Consortium? Would they qualify for this program?
I'm not sure that to be a sponsor, you would have to, so it consists of at least 3 local school systems. So
That's every school system on the Eastern Shore. I just want to make sure they would qualify.
I would think they would qualify as a potential sponsor. They would meet this criteria because at least 3 local school systems or additional school systems. So somewhere in there is they would fall under one of these categories.
So we discussed that ad nauseum last night on the floor, so thought I'd just bring that one up. Those are very important to organization of stuff on the shore. But I had a more direct question about the bill. Page 5, it says, to receive a grant under the grant program, a sponsor's apprenticeship shall meet the requirements of this section. Number 1, have union participation and be approved by the Maryland Apprenticeship and Training Council. I get number 1, I get number 3. Number 2, union participation. What does that mean?
That might be a better question for the sponsor. He added that. I think there was suggestions in the bill as heard from the unions adding for a role here because traditionally apprenticeships have had union sponsorship. So they certainly would like a role in whatever career path you're developing because.
See, well, I have nothing against unions and I have nothing against teachers union, but I know there is a division within the teaching community, union, non-union. I think most school systems are mostly union. Some in my district are split and making that a requirement. There's no prohibition against a union being involved, but this is requiring it. And that gives me pause for concern, but I just wanted to verify that it would require some form of union participation. And,
It would, that to receive a grant, a sponsor apprenticeship shall meet the requirements and have, yes, they
Okay.
must have some union participation in the
And most importantly,
apprenticeship.
the Eastern Shore Education Consortium, consisting of all the school systems on the Eastern Shore, would be able to participate.
If they meet the criteria, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair.
No, I was just gonna say to the union, it just from my thoughts of Baltimore County schools, that there were always union, in every school I've ever been involved with, there's always been a union, but it's probably different from your area. And if you didn't want to be in the union, you didn't have to be. So,
I think my issue was it was a requirement,
Yeah,
to
okay.
be, that was the issue. Yeah.
Okay, you have Senate Bill 668 with the sponsors amendments before you. Is there any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion. Have a motion and a second for a favorable on Senate Bill 668 as amended. All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait,
If I'm not the deciding vote.
okay, we're gonna do that again because I saw some hands. I saw some hands going up and down.
got to 8, you got some more hands
I'm going to try this again. You have Senate Bill 668 before you. A motion is for a favorable with amendments that has been seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That bill receives a favorable report with amendments.
Did Senator?
Right.
Oh,
Those opposed, raise your hand.
Okay.
Okay. No, he isn't.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, he's not.
Okay, that was 2 negative, 8 positive.
No, he's not.
That doesn't add up. Was it 9?
Try again. Try again.
Okay.
I think we should try this again.
One more time.
One more time.
Senate-
I'm thinking about it.
Okay, we're gonna count this time. Matter of fact, do we need to do a roll call? We don't even have a. Look,
No, it's down to 6.
It's 9-2.
do y'all want me to call your names? Really? This is the 3rd time we've taken this vote, right? Okay. You have Senate Bill 668 favorable with amendments. Let me see the hands of those that are opposed to the motion. The favorable. That's 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's 4 opposed. Wait, that's 5 opposed. I'm just gonna keep this up for a minute. I'm the only one on camera. I'm the only one on camera. I got 1, 2, 3, 4.
You guys don't know what you're doing.
4 no's. Okay.
You guys don't know what you're
Those in favor of the favorable, please raise your hand.
doing.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Here's Hershey on this.
5, 6.
He's voting.
All right.
Seven.
Look,
Seven.
One of the 4.
that bill receives a majority favorable votes.
Kill still, he will be all over.
I know.
you
I
like-
think we got a 7-4.
And it's-
If I have to do it again, we will take a roll call. So that bill passes. I feel like I have a floor leader in this general vicinity over here. right.
On the fun side.
All right. Do we have another bill?
Gotta go back to the other one.
Oh, we're going back to Senate Bill 162.
Oh, yeah. we did.
I hope that they take it as a joke. Shouldn't have said that.
Senator Vital.
I just looked up the MAA commission that's being appointed right now. You know, that all the appointments are at the same time, so there are none in 32, there are none in 13, we have a good deal of noise, there's 1 in 33 that was withdrawn. So in the entire area around the airport, there's 1 representative on the MAA from District 30, everybody else is from.
No, I hear you, and that kind of makes sense if they had 9 and they're supposed to be representing racial, geographic, 24 jurisdictions down to 9. So I do understand that.
I just find out of the 4 districts to only have 1 is kind of interesting. You know, right around the airport.
So we could pass the bill and then they'd have 2 more.
one from Howard, one from Anne Arundel, then there'd be 3 on there. But there'd be 12 members of the commission.
Okay, so I believe we already had a motion and a second for the favorable on Senate Bill 162. Is there any further discussion? Senator Lamb, Senator Vital, you want to turn your mic off?
Just a clarifying question. We're voting on the amendment, right? To amend this to this.
The motion is on your amendments to Senate Bill 162, right?
Right, the amendments to the bill.
Correct.
Okay.
So you have before you the amendments to Senate Bill 162. Senator Kramer.
I'm not going to hold this up any longer, but on the basis of what we just heard, is it possible now that the commission could have 5 members between Howard and Anne Arundel, including the one that's already been appointed and 4 more appointed? So there could be 5 at easily of the, okay. Just wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
Senator Klossmeyer.
Yes, and, you know, Martin State Airport's the only other one. If there's a problem in the future, I will be coming back to get someone from Baltimore County for sure on that, so.
Are there any, when you were reading the districts in, I forget what district? To go back to that email.
The camel's nose is under the toe. And it's sniffing around.
I'm trying to look for you, Senator. I have to find that email again. I have too many emails from executive noms. Here we go. Right now, they're from, and as the chairman said, we don't know if these are the ones that represent industry or the diversity or what, but right now there's District 11, 28, 31, 23. No, 23 was drawn, 30, 38, Senator Croza, 23, 26, 33 was drawn, and then 18.
So there's someone from 11, which is Baltimore County.
They're from 11, but that's like outside of the world, but that's okay. There's somebody involved.
There's somebody from 11.
There could be more, I guess, but I don't know these numbers.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for a favorable on the sponsor amendments to 162, Senate Bill 162. Senator Reedy.
I'm just explaining my vote before we vote. I'm going to vote for this bill.
Thank you.
I just want to make a statement that, and I'm going to vote for it because I think it's not a local courtesy as a state board, but I do recognize the argument that there's some communities that are much more dramatically impacted by our major airport. So I'm doing it for that reason. I just want to encourage all of us to try to keep that in mind with other issues that come up about local courtesy and local things dealing with with things that are happening in each of our local area or our region. I think we can all do a good job of hopefully supporting each other as we move forward the next 4 years. So I am in good faith going to vote yes. I have some reservation about the number, but I understand the point and I will vote for it.
Any other explaining your vote before you vote?
Yep.
Okay, Senator Moats.
I was just appreciated all the local courtesy we got yesterday, so I'm happy to return that with this vote. So on the Eastern Shore, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, the amendments are before you. I have a motion and a second for a favorable. All in favor of the amendments on Senate Bill 162, raise your hand. That's unanimous. Okay, the amendments are adopted. I have a motion. Yes, I have a motion and a second for a favorable on Senate Bill 162 as amended. Any further discussion? I'm going, yep. Got it.
No.
I'm trying to get it on. I want to see if everybody wants on at the end. So, okay, we have before us Senate Bill 162 with the sponsor amendments and a motion and a second for a favorable. All in favor of the bill as amended, raise your hand.
But it's gonna fly away.
Okay, that's unanimous. Now, we have a request for a sponsor amendment. Anybody without objection, that amendment is adopted. All right, I think that's,
Passing taxes on Montgomery County at that airport.
let me,
We're gonna be having a conversation.
yes, so we're gonna stay put for just a second. That concludes our voting session. Want to thank the staff for being quick to turn around stuff at the last minute and putting up with all of the, we want it, no, we don't want it, yes, we do. Thank you all very much. We may be back again. Don't know if we will today, but just stay tuned. I'm getting ready to go off camera now. Thank you.